Welcome to my channel, The Proper Guidance. Here we are today to discuss about chapter number 2, that is file handling in Python. In this chapter we will discuss introduction to files, types of files, opening and closing a text file, writing a text file, reading from a text file, setting offsets in a file, creating and traversing a text file, and the Pickle Module. Okay. So let's start. Introduction to files. We have so far created programs in Python that accept the input, manipulate it and display the output. But that output is available only during execution of the program, and input is to be entered through the keyboard. This is because the variables used in a program have a lifetime that lasts till the time the program is under execution. What if we want to store the data that were input as well as the generated output permanently so that we can reuse it later? Usually organizations would want to permanently store information about employees, inventory, sales, etc. to avoid repetitive task of entering the same data. Hence, data are stored permanently on secondary storage devices for reusability. We stored Python programs written in script mode with a .py extension. Each program is stored on the secondary device as a file. Likewise, the data entered and the output can be stored permanently into a file. Okay. So, what is a file? A file is a named location on a secondary storage media where data are permanently stored for later access. And types of files? Types of files means computers store every file as a collection of zeros and ones in the binary form. Okay, we know this. Therefore, every file is basically just a series of bytes stored one after the other. There are mainly two types of data files: text file and binary file. A text file consists of human readable characters which can be opened by any text editor. On the other hand, binary files are made up of non-human readable characters and symbols which require specific programs to access its contents. Okay. So, this is the concept of types of files. One is text file, another is binary file. Text file is easily readable by human, and binary file just the symbols and characters. This is non-readable, actually non-human readable concept. So, first thing, text file. What is a text file? A text file can be understood as a sequence of characters consisting of alphabets, numbers and other special symbols. Files with extensions like .txt, .py, .csv, etc. are some examples of text files. When we open a text file using a text editor, example notepad, we see several lines of text. However, the file contents are not stored in such a way internally, rather they are stored in sequence of bytes consisting of zeros and ones. In ASCII or Unicode or any other encoding scheme, the value of each character of the text file is stored as bytes. So, while opening a text file, the text editor translates each ASCII value and so shows us the equivalent character that is readable by the human being. For example, the ASCII value 65 binary equivalent this thing will be displayed by a text editor as the letter A, since the number 65 in ASCII character set represents A. Each line of text file is terminated by a special character called the end of line. For example, the default end of line character in Python is the new line, this thing new. However, other characters can be used to indicate end of the file. When a text editor or a program interpreter encounters the ASCII equivalent of the end of the line character, it displays the remaining file contents starting from a new line. Contents in a text file are usually separated by white space, but comma and tab are also commonly used to separate values in a text file. Okay. Next, binary files. The name implies that all the things are in the form of zeros and ones. Binary files is also stored in terms of bytes, but unlike text files, these bytes do not represent the ASCII values of characters, rather they represent the actual content such as image, audio, video, compressed version, all those things of other files, executable files, etc. These files are not human readable, thus trying to open a binary file using a text editor will show some garbage values. Okay. This trying to open a binary file is to show you garbage values. We need specific software to read or write the contents of a binary file. We need a specific software to read or write the contents of a binary file, so that we can easily understand those files. Binary files are stored in a computer in a sequence of bytes. Even a single bit change can corrupt the file and make it unreadable to the supporting application. So, this is very important line, that just if we change one bit of that particular set of bytes or sequence of bytes, even a single bit change can corrupt the file and make it unreadable to the supporting application. Also, it is difficult to remove any error which may occur in the binary file as the stored contents are not human readable. We can read and write both text and binary files through Python programs. Now, opening and closing a text file. How to open and close a text file? In real world applications, computer programs deal with data coming from different sources like databases, CSV files, HTML, XML, JSON, etc. We broadly access files either to write or read data from it, but operations on files include creating and opening a file, writing data in a file, traversing a file, reading data from a file, and so on. Python has the I/O module that contains different functions for handling files and opening a file. To open a file in Python, we use the open function, and the syntax of open is as follows: file object equals to open, file name, access mode. Now, this function returns a file object called file handle, which is stored in the variable file object. We can use this variable to transfer data to and from the file, read and write by calling the functions and defined in the Python's I/O module. If the file does not exist, the above statement creates a new empty file and assigns it the name we specify in the statement. The file object has certain attributes that tells us basic information about the file, such as file.closed returns true if the file is closed and false otherwise. Okay. So, file.mode returns the access of mode in which the file was opened, and file.name returns the name of the file. The file name should be the name of the file that has to be opened. If the file is not in the current working directory, then we need to specify the complete path of the file along with its name. The access mode is an optional argument that represents the mode in which the file has to be accessed by the program. It is also referred to as the processing mode. Here, mode means the operation for which the file has to be opened, like R, this is for reading, W for writing, plus for both reading and writing, A for appending at the end of the existing file. The default is the read mode. In addition, we can specify whether the file will be handled as binary or text mode. By default, files are opened in text mode. That means strings can be read or written. Files containing non-textual data are opened in binary mode. That means read or write are performed in terms of bytes. Okay. Various file access modes can be used with the open method. The file offset position in the table refers to the position of the file object when the file is opened in a particular mode. And again we get here another table which is for file mode. Different file modes are here along with the description and file offset position. Look here, first R opens the file in read only mode, beginning of the file. RB opens the file in binary and read only mode, beginning of the file. R plus or plus R opens the file in both read and write mode, beginning of the file. W opens the file in write mode. If the file already exists, all the contents will be overwritten. If the file does not exist, then a new file will be created, beginning of the file. WB plus or plus WB opens the file in read, write and binary mode. If the file already exists, the contents will be overwritten. If the file does not exist, then a new file will be created. It is also in the beginning of the file. Then comes A for append, opens the file in append mode. If the file does not exist, then end of the then a new file will be created at the end of the file. And A plus or plus A opens the file in append or in read mode. If the file does not exist, then it will create a new file, end of the file. Consider the following example. Here is an example. My object open my file.txt and A plus. In the above statement, the file myfile.txt is opened in append and read modes. The file object will be at the end of the file. That means we can write data at the end of the file, and at the same time we can also read data from the file using the file object named myObject. And closing a file, same thing, close this file object dot close. This line is used for close a file. And the syntax is here. Here file object is the object that was returned while opening the file. Python makes sure that any unwritten or unsafe data is flushed off to the file before it is closed. Hence, it is always advised to close the file once our work is done. Also, if the file object is reassigned to some other file, the previous file is automatically closed, and thereafter opening a file using the clause. In Python, we can also open a file using with clause. The syntax of the with clause is here, with open file name access mode as file object. The advantage of using the with clause is that any file that is opened using this clause is closed automatically once the control comes outside the with clause. In case the user forgets to close the file explicitly, or if an exception occurs, the file is closed automatically. Also, it provides a simpler syntax. With open myfile.txt, this is my object, content equals to myObject.read. Okay, and here we don't have to close the file explicitly using close statement. Python will automatically close the file. These are the syntax proper use of this one. And writing to a text file, look here. For writing to a file, we first need to open it in write or append mode. If we open an existing file in write mode, the previous data will be erased and the file object will be positioned at the beginning of the file. On the other hand, in append mode, new data will be added at the end of the previous data, as the file object is at the end of the file. After opening the file, we can use the following methods to write data in the file. Write for writing a single string, writeline for writing a sequence of strings. The write method takes a string as an argument and writes it to the text file. It returns the number of characters being written on single execution of the write method. Also, we need to add a new line character at the end of every sentence to mark the end of line. Okay, and on execution, write returns the number of characters written onto the file. Hence, this, which is the length of the string passed as an argument, is displayed here. If numeric data to be written to a text file, the data need to be converted into string before writing it to the file. For example, this thing here, the code snippet. The write actually writes data onto a buffer. When the close method is executed, the contents from this buffer are moved to the file located on the permanent storage. And here is another method, writelines methods. What it happens when we use the writelines method, it is the method is used to write multiple strings to a file. We need to pass an iterable object like list, tuple, etc. containing strings to the writelines method. Unlike write, the writelines method does not return the number of characters written in the file. The following code explains the use of writelines. My object equals to open myfile.txt w. Lines equals to hello everyone, writing multiple strings. This is the third line, my object.writelines lines, this thing. On opening myfile.txt using notepad, its content will appear as shown in this thing. Reading from a text file, we can write a program to read the contents of a file, and before reading a file, we must make sure that the file is opened in R+, W+, or A+ mode. There are three ways to read the contents of a file. The read method. First, the read method. This method is used to read a specified number of bytes of data from a data file. The syntax of read method is file object.readn. Consider the following: my object equals to open myfile.txt, and this is the read mode. My object.read10, hello ever, my object.close. If no argument or a negative number is specified in read, the entire file content is read. For example, my object open myfile.txt or print my object.read, hello everyone, writing multi-line strings. This is the third line, my object.close. And the readline method, this method reads one complete line from a file where each line terminates with a new line character. It can also be used to read a specified number of bytes of data. This is readline in method, also be used to this thing of embed and data from a file, but maximum up to the new line character. In the following example, The second statement reads the first 10 characters of the first line of the text file and displays them on the screen. My object equals to open my file.txt r. This is read method. My object dot readline 10. Hello ever, my object dot close. If no argument or a negative number is specified, it reads complete line and returns string. And my object open this thing, print my object read line. Hello everyone. To read the entire file line by line using the read line, we can use a loop. This process is known as looping, iterating over a file object. It returns an empty string when end of the file is reached. And the readlines method. The readlines method reads all the lines and returns the lines along with the new line as a list of strings. The following example shows you what it happens actually. My object equals to open my file.txt r, print my object dot readlines. Hello everyone, new line character, writing multiple strings. This is the third line, my object dot close. Okay, as shown in the above output, when we read a file using readlines functions, lines in the file become members of a list where each list element ends with a new line character. In case we want to display each word of line separately as an element of a list, then we can use split function. The following code demonstrates the use of split function. How it works? It works like this. My object open this thing, D equals to my object dot read lines. For line in D, there is a for loop, words equals to line dot split, print words. Hello everyone, writing multi-line strings. This is the third line. Each and every word will be displayed and the for loop. In the output, each string is returned as elements of a list. However, if split lines is used instead of split, then each line is returned as element of a list, as shown in the for line in D. This thing we will get like this. Hello everyone, this is the first line, second line and the third line. In the elements of list we get it if we use split lines instead of split method. Let us now write a program that accepts the string from the user and writes it to a text file. Thereafter, the same program reads the text file, displaying writing and reading to a text file. If object equals to open text file, text is creating a data file. Sentence equals to input, enter the contents to be written in the file, and what it happens, if object write dot sentence, writing data, if object dot close, closing the file object, and print now reading and contents of the file. If object equals to, if object will open text file, this thing. For str in if object, print str, if object dot close. In program this thing, the file named test file txt opened in write mode, and the file handle named if object. If object is returned, the string is accepted from the user and the written in the file using write. Then the file is closed and again opened in read mode. Data is read from the file and displayed till the end of the file is reached. And this is the program output. Output of the program is here. You please go through. And setting offsets in a file. Next topic is setting offsets in a file. The functions that we have learned till now are used to access the data sequentially from a file. But if we want to access data in a random fashion, then Python gives us seek and tell functions to do so. Seek method and tell method to do so. The first one, the tell method, the tell method is discussed here. This function returns an integer that specifies the current position of the file object in the file. The positions are specified in the byte position from the beginning of the file till the current position of the file object. The syntax of using tell is file object dot tell. The seek method, this method is used to position the file object at a particular position in a file. The syntax of seek is file object dot seek offset reference point. In the above syntax, offset is the number of bytes by which the file object is to be moved. Reference point indicates the starting position of the file object, that is, with reference to which position the offset has to be counted. It can have any of the following values: 0 beginning of the file, 1 current position of the file, 2 end of file. By default, the value of reference point is 0, that is the offset is counted from the beginning of the file. For example, the statement file object seek50 will position the file object at 5th byte position from the beginning of the file. The code in program 2x2 demonstrate the usage of seek and tell. Application of seek and tell method. Print, learning to move to the file object. You please go through this programming code snippet, and if there is any problem, please feel free to ask me. Creating and traversing a text file. How to traverse? Having learned various methods that help us to open and close a file, read and write data in a text file, find the position of the file object and move the file object at its desired location. Let us now perform some basic operation on a text file. To perform these operations, let us assume that we will be working with practice.txt. Creating a file and writing data. To create a text file, we use the open method first to create a text file and provide the file name and the mode. If the file already exists with the same name, the open function will behave differently depending on the mode write or append used. If it is in write mode, then all the existing contents of file will be lost and an empty file will be created with the same name. But if the file is created in append mode, then the new data will be written after the existing data. In both cases, if the file does not exist, then a new empty file will be created. In program 2.3, our file practice.txt is opened in write mode and 3 sentences are stored in to create a text file and write data in it. Look, file object open practice.txt w plus. While true, data equals to input, enter data to save the text file. File object dot write data, answer input, do you wish to enter more data, yes or no? If answer is equals to no, break. File object dot close. Output of the program, restart path, and everything is here. Traversing a file and displaying data. To read and display data that is stored in a text file, we will refer to the previous example where we have created the file practice text. The file will be opened in read mode and reading will begin from the beginning of the file. To display data from a text file, file object equals to open practice.txt r string file object dot readline, while str print str this thing file object dot close. Readline is used in the while loop to read the data line by line from the text file. The lines are displayed using the print. As the end of the file is reached, the readline will return an empty string. Finally, the file is closed using the close method. Till now, we have been creating separate programs for writing data to a file and for reading the file. Now, let us create one single program to read and write data using a single file object. Since both the operations have to be performed using a single file object, the file will be opened in W plus mode. Okay. To perform reading and writing operation in a text file, we have done a program here. You people just go through this program. If there is any problem to understand this, please feel free to ask me. In program to this thing, programming coder here, then the Pickle module. We know that Python considers everything as an object. Okay. We know that Python considers everything as an object. So, all data types including list, tuple, dictionary, etc. are also considered as objects. During execution of a program, we may require to store current state. We may require to store current state of variables so that we can retrieve them later to its present state. Suppose you are playing a video game and after some time you want to close it. So, the program should be able to store the current state of the game including current level stage, your score, etc. as a Python object. Likewise, you may like to store a Python dictionary as an object to be able to retrieve later to save any object structure along with data. Python provides a module called Pickle. Python provides a module called Pickle. The module Pickle is used for serializing and deserializing any Python object structure. Pickling is a method of preserving food items by placing them in some solution which increases the shelf life. In other words, it is a method to store food items for later consumption, right? So, serialization is the process of transforming data or an object memory in RAM to a stream of bytes called byte streams. These byte streams in a binary file can then be stored in a disk or in a database or sent through a network. Serialization process is also called pickling. Deserialization or unpickling is the inverse of the pickling process, where a byte stream is converted back to Python object. And the pickling module deals with binary files, where data are not written but dumped, and similarly data are not read but loaded. The pickle module must be imported to load and dump data. The pickle module provides two methods, dump and load, to work with binary files for pickling and unpickling respectively. The dump method, the name implies dumping of some data. This method is used to convert pickling Python objects for writing data in a binary file. The file in which data are to be dumped needs to be opened in binary write mode. Syntax of dump is as follows: dump data object, file object, where data object is the object that has to be dumped to the file with the file handle named file object. For example, program 226 writes the record of a student, roll number, this thing, in the binary file named mybinary.Dat using the dump. We need to close the file after pickling. Pickling data, import pickle, list values, file object, open.this thing, pickle.dump, list values, file object, and what? File object dot close. Okay, so this is the thing, pickling happens. And the load method, this is dump method and this is load method. This method is used to load unpickling data from a binary file. The file to be loaded is opened in binary read module mode. Syntax of load is as follows: store object, load file object. Here the pickle Python object is loaded from the file, having a file handle named file object, and is stored in a new file handle called store object. Okay, so the program is demonstrate how to read data from the file mybinary.dat using the load. Unpickling data in Python, import pickle, print the data that was stored in file. File object equals to open by mybinary.dat rb object where pickle.load, this thing. Output of program is this one. File handling using pickle module. As we read and write data in a text file, similarly we will be adding and displaying data for a binary file. Program 228 accepts a record of an employee from this thing, and the user may enter. All those things are here. Please go through this program, you will be understood properly, and the concept is completely discussed here, and we will just go through the program. This is a big program and you go through, and my aim is that for beginners level, when we go through some study material, we have to just clear the concept of theory portion first. After that, after completion of all the chapters in this study material, we will go to the practical section where we will be done all the programs completely of Python programming language according to your syllabus of class 12. So this is our second chapter which is completed. If there is any problem, please comment me. I will discuss in a different class. Okay, so thank you for watching.